Hey everybody, welcome back to Brainiac Baseball's 1984 Detroit Tigers season replay. Today we are going to take a look at the month of May. We'll summarize the standings, and then we'll take a look at the league leaders. It will be a little bit different than what we normally do at the end of the month. It will be a look at the cumulative totals for our all of our players here in the Sim since it began in 1980 all the way through the month of May. So over a 4+ year period, we'll see who the leaders are in each of the main categories for hitting and fielding and pitching. So we're going to do that. And then after that, we're going to take a look at the players who are available in the amateur draft. We have the 23rd pick in the draft for this upcoming season, and we'll take a look and see who might be available for us when that pick comes around in the first round. And we'll look deeper into the draft to see which players are available in the later rounds. Okay? So that's the plan for today. Let's take a look here. We wrapped up the month of May with a victory earlier today over Boston. We won 4-2. Nothing too special about that other than it is always good to beat the first place team. When you look at the standings here in the American League, you'll see in the East we are a half game behind Boston. Now, who would have thought that? The way things started this year. I think part of it is sometimes the best way to improve your team is to do nothing. And that's kind of what I've done. We made one minor league trade this year that really didn't make a difference. Maybe sometime in the future it will, but as for now, no, it won't have any impact on our season. But we have stayed healthy for the most part. Jack Morris had a 5-game injury in which he just had to have a start pushed back. So we've kept everybody healthy so far, and that's probably why we are only a half game back of Boston. Boston, we'll just take a quick look. I tried to mention it earlier, and I couldn't think of who the third starting pitcher, but they've lost Bruce Hurst, Oil Can Boyd, and Bob Ojeda. They'll all be back within a 2-week period, but those are their top 3 starting pitchers, which leaves them with John Tudor, Mike Chris, Al Nipper, who's killing it, and yet I have a feeling he's going to get sent to the minor leagues when they all come back. And now they're stuck with Dana Kicker and Danny Parks, who will play against tomorrow. So they've suffered all those injuries to the pitchers, and then they lost their number 1 starting catcher, Gino Petralli. So they have suffered some injuries. I think that's part of why we're back in it. So we cannot rest on our laurels going forward. We do have some decisions to make because we have so many players with expiring contracts, and I typically like to start making trades, like legitimate trades, right around the time of the draft. So that's coming up very quickly. Now, we did highlight the Toronto Blue Jays yesterday, and they are on a 6-game winning streak now. They've jumped ahead of the Yankees, who seem to be falling apart as well. Their offense is not great. Their pitching is suffering due to some injuries. Slagle is on the IL right now for another month. So I don't think the Yankees are going to be, they're only 4 games back, but I don't think they're going to be around toward the latter half of the season. And Baltimore, they have no money to spend. So I can't imagine that they will be there down the stretch. If they lose a player, especially someone vital to their rotation, they're done, I think. They have nobody because they don't have the money. I'll just illustrate that really quick. This is all they have for pitching. They have 1 pitcher in AAA. Randy Jones is already injured, and he's terrible. He'll go back into the lineup and replace Jeff Sellers into the rotation. But there's nobody on this team that I think will be able to provide them with any consistency in the rotation. They also have Tim Stoddard, who was injured in spring training. He'll come back and he will likely go right into the bullpen. But yeah, so like I think Baltimore is toast. I believe New York is toast. I think Toronto could possibly be a solid third place team. Milwaukee and Cleveland, better luck next year. Oakland is one game up on Seattle. I think they're going to be battling it out. It is kind of nice to see Chicago making a run. They do have a great 1-2 punch at pitcher with Britt Burns and what's his name? Richard Dotson. That's right. So yeah, they have a good 1-2 punch with those two starting pitchers. They're kind of thin after that, but it really is their lineup and their home run power that is keeping them in the chase for the American League West. Everybody else, I don't have a lot of faith in the rest of the division. I think, although California's only 4 games back, I'm pretty sure that they're not going to be there in the end. Then we'll take a look at the National League real quick. Philadelphia is 4.5 games up on New York. New York has lost 4 in a row. That is trending in the wrong direction for sure. Pittsburgh, I mean, there really are no other interesting teams in the lower half of this division. Pittsburgh does pique my interest because as a small market team, they've done a really good job of building their roster from inside. This is without a DH. So I have to give them a lot of credit for making some valuable trades to at least make their team viable in a small market. Their pitching staff is not great, and yet they found a way to make it work. So they're an interesting team, but I don't think they'll be around. And then, of course, in the West, Los Angeles has started to pull away from Cincinnati, but Cincinnati has maybe the only other elite staff in baseball. You'll see the Dodgers pitching staff has a 2.5 ERA. Cincinnati is 2.68. In any other division, Cincinnati would definitely be a first-place team. Everybody else is just fighting for third. So I think that pretty much wraps up the standings and what I wanted to point out. Other than if you look at the averages, you'll see that the Tigers are 2 points above the league average in batting average. We're right around league average in home runs. This is a big home run year. And if it wasn't for Brock and for Ken Smith, we probably wouldn't even be close on that. We don't steal bases. In fact, we might be the worst. Only Toronto and Cleveland have less stolen bases than us. It's not what we do. And I don't know. I don't like to give away outs. And then our ERA is the best in the American League by far. So that's going to be our key, keeping things together down the stretch. Keep that ERA low. Okay, so let's. What do we want to do? Do we want to do the standings or do you want to do the draft? Not the standings. I mean the league. Let's do the draft because I'm excited. We show this. Whenever I create whenever we have a new season, whether I'm starting from scratch or I'm playing a continuous sim like we're doing here with the Tigers, one of the first things I do once it progresses to the next season is go and take a look and see which players are available in the draft so I can kind of plan ahead. So I've been thinking about this for a long, long time already. I have it sorted by what my scouts think. And this is important, I think, because all the other numbers can be misconstrued. But I believe that the game, if you spend your money properly, looking at our expenses, the most we can afford is to be 12th in scouting in our the dollars allotted for our budget. And so, we're right in the middle of the pack. So what that means is potentially some of these scouting numbers are going to be off a little bit. And I'm okay with that. But I think because we know who the major leaguers are, it makes things a little bit easier for us to predict who might be around in the 23rd spot. So let's just count down real quick. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23. Okay, so that's basically where we would pick. So let's just take a look here. We are going to click on Pete Harnish, who is the highest best scouted player in the draft. And I do have all the players with a card representing them, as long as they were in the majors and they had a card. And I have all of the skin tone. I have everything set up for the draft. I mean, it's ready to go. So Pete Harnish is the highest scouted player in the draft. You'll see here his peak is a 94. He's high school, hasn't even reached 18 yet in this game, and you can see the numbers. And I pay a little mind to those. I really care about projections, but there's no really way to know. So the Royals have the number 1 overall pick, and if things are chalk, you would think that the Royals would draft Pete Harnish. The number 2 pick, at least rated based on scouting, is Hall of Famer Larry Walker. I love Larry Walker. I wish he would be around for us to draft. I would pick him immediately. I would think that for us, the player to go with would be someone who would be a batter. We've got so many starting pitchers that are available in our AAA and AA. I don't think we need to worry about drafting any starters unless they're the best player available. Derek Lee is third. We'll just go right down the list here. There's Terry Jorgensen, number 4 on the list. We've got Leo Gomez, number 5. I don't know about that. I mean, some of these are pretty sketchy. He's a third baseman with a 64 rating, so he's really got to develop. Number 6 is Albert, don't call me Joey Bell. Left fielder, really a solid DH. Arguably should be in the Hall of Fame. I think he's in the Hall very good. I couldn't make that argument, but I could see how others might. Then we have maybe the greatest modern pitcher of all time, Greg Maddux. There's no way Greg Maddux would be available. Look at his arsenal. He's got 6 pitches, and I mean, none of them are particularly good, but by the time he makes it to the major leagues, whatever team gets him, he might be ready to use all 6 of those. I can't wait to see what he becomes. Then we have Dave Island at number 7, drafted by the Yankees in real life. Number 8 is John Vanderwall, drafted by the Expos. Number 9, Kurt Schilling. And no matter what you think of him as a human being, probably does deserve to be in the Hall of Fame. And it would be an asset to any team in the sim. Then we've got Blackjack McDowell. One time, I think he was as good as anybody in baseball. You'll see him here in the White Sox uniform, drafted by the White Sox. I never liked the curly C for the White Sox. I don't know how you feel about that. Juan Guzman. Guzman. That's what I almost said there. Juan Guzman. He had a couple really great seasons in the majors, represented by the Dodgers. We got Dave Telgeter for the Mets. Melito Perez, another White Sox. I don't think he was actually drafted. I think he was an amateur free agent. Him and his brother Pascual were both amateur free agents. Then we have Hector Alvarez, who was a Mexican League center fielder. The game thinks he's pretty good. I don't know. Good contact hitter anyway. I couldn't find a card for him. If they don't have a card to represent them, I just couldn't find one, even one that was made by someone else. Terry Shumpert, pretty good. I guess maybe you would call him like a backup infielder, utility infielder, second baseman in this game. David Justice. I used to boo the shit out of this guy. I'm not a big fan of David Justice, but he is a very quality major league hitter. Bernard Gilkey. I'll take Bernard Gilkey over David Justice. Gilkey, good speed, great defense. I like Gilkey quite a bit. I'm assuming he was drafted by the Cardinals in real life. There's Ron Coomer. I know he played for the Twins. I think he might have been drafted by the Brewers, but I can't remember. But Ron Coomer, good personality. Frank Bolick. We've got Moises Alou, solid everyday player. Trevor Wilson, not a bad starting pitcher. And Randy Tomlin rounds out 23 in the where we might be drafting someone. It would be at the 23rd position, which is Randy Tomlin. So there's its first 23. Beyond that, let's say everything goes as chalk. If it were to get to me at 23, who else would still be around? And I'll let you peruse some of these at your own leisure here if you want to pause it. But you'll see there's Tom Glavine, okay, Hall of Famer. Tim Wakefield, kind of a late start in his career, but he had that knuckleball that was really amazing. Even Dave Burba was a solid starting pitcher. Chris Hammond, not a fan, I guess. Sandy Alomar Jr. He's a good catcher, good defensive catcher. We're good on catchers, though. Stan Belindo was a closer for the Pirates. Jeff Conine, the Barbarian. I don't know. I think you could do worse. Woody Williams, good starting pitcher. Hard-hitting Mark Whitten. 2 grand slams in a game, I think he had, right? Greg Olson, the closer with the 2 Gs. Richie Lewis, closer for the Marlins. David Segui, multiple-time steroid user. Oh, we got Joe Table. Jose Mesa. Joe Table. I would pick up Joe Table just so I could call him Joe Table whenever he came into the ballgame. A really good closer during this era. Jeff Johnson. Is this the Jeff Johnson that pitched for the Tigers? It is not. It's the Yankees, Jeff Johnson. Orlando Merced. Pretty decent player for the Pirates. John Jaha. Like, he is... he's kind of like Vogelbach. He's like one of those guys that could probably be in a beer softball league, you know. Darren Fletcher, good catcher. Armando Reynoso, opening day starter for the Rockies, I believe, when in their very first game. Francisco Cabrera, World Series hero. Scott Brosius is a good third baseman. I mean, we're not seeing anybody here, now as we're getting deeper, that is really getting me excited. I mean, John Wetland is in jail for the rest of his life. Let's see. Kevin Brown. Is this the good Kevin Brown? No, this is a different Kevin Brown. What else we got here? Mickey Morandini, solid second baseman. Let's see. Alan Mills. Bob Zupsik, a really highly touted Red Sox minor leaguer, just never materialized. Scott Coolbaugh, is he the one that got killed on the field? I can't remember. If it was Mike or Scott that got hit as a third base coach and passed away. Let's see. I mean, there's not a whole lot here. Carlos Maldonado. Yeah. I don't. Bob Scanlon. Tim Bogar. And we get to the bottom. And it's Chris Nickting is Mr. Irrelevant, according to the scouting patterns here. So there you go. Those are the players that are available in the draft. Obviously, there's going to be somebody good for us in round 1. If everything goes chalk, I would absolutely take Tom Glavine, despite probably really needing a hitter. If I thought about it hard enough, I would probably go with Mark Whitten in right field. I don't know. I mean, we can always find first baseman, so Conine wouldn't really appeal to me. And yeah, I mean, that's probably who I'd go with. I'd go with Glavin, or maybe I could talk myself into Mark Whitten. So there you have it. There are the players available for the draft. The draft takes place on June 9th in the game here. So that's what we have to look forward to coming up in the early part of the month of June. Okay, let's take a look at the league leaders. I'm excited to do this as well. We do this once a year where we take a look at the leaders and we accumulate all the players into one pool, and we go ahead and take a look and see how the players are doing from the beginning of our sim year all the way through the end of the month of May. And we're going to start it off with the batting average leaders, and we'll do all the hitting, and then all the fielding, and then all the pitching. Just the pertinent categories. We're not going to go deep diving. But I always find this fun because, I mean, here's the Washington brothers. Oh, no, that's not LaRue and UL Washington. So Claudel is not related to LaRue. But you'll take a look at these, and these are qualified based on whatever the standard is for a regular batting average. So it's that same standard extrapolated over 4+ seasons, okay? So Wade Boggs is clearly the best hitter in our game. Makes total sense. You can see here he is batting .328 overall. And has he won a title yet? He did win a title in '82, batting .349. He will likely win this year as well. And, playing in Fenway Park certainly plays to a lot of the Boston hitters' advantage. Marty Barrett batting .306. Johnny Ray's the best in the National League. And you can just take a look here as you roll down the list. A lot of familiar names in there. Some that don't make any sense. Like, I guess Greg Gross batting .287 is not that much of a leap, but he was a long-time pinch hitter. He wasn't even really an everyday player. Certainly, Kevin Romberg and LaRue Washington are probably the two names that stand out as being kind of ridiculous. LaRue Washington was out of baseball by 1980, before we even started the sim, and yet he's putting up some good numbers in an Expo uniform. Okay, there we go. Let's just, oh, damn it. Here we go. At-bats, who's had the most at-bats? It's Willie Randolph, followed by 3 Tigers are in there. Lou Whitaker, George Brett, Alan Trammell. So, I mean, obviously Brett has been very good during his period in the sim. Wait, was George Brett on that list? I don't even know if I even noticed. He is. So George Brett's batting .303. And that's a good reason to keep him around. Whether he starts to sag at third, at least we could depend on him to get hits. He would be a really good DH in the future. Okay, let's take a look at the doubles leaders. We're just going to do the batting categories here. It is Johnny Ray of Pittsburgh with 205. That's 25 better than Ken Oberkfell, who's on San Francisco. George Brett's on that list. Chet Lemon, he'll be off that list in like a minute. He's just terrible for us. But he must have had 1 or 2 good years with Milwaukee or Chicago before he came to us. There's LaRue Washington. Some weird names. Garth Orge of Toronto. I mean, if you get to play every day on a shitty team, I mean, you're going to put up some numbers sooner or later. Hoskin Powell on Minnesota. Alan Bannister on Baltimore. The best thing that happened to him was going to Baltimore, where he got to play every day for a few seasons as the DH. Okay, moving on to grounding into double plays. I'm curious. Hey, it's Ron Hassey. There's Wade Boggs, George Brett, all the slow of foot that you might expect. Lance Parrish has 76. He doesn't play as much, so he'll probably fall off that list. Extra base hits, extra. It's George Brett with 231. There you go. It's always good to see a Tiger at the top of the lineup. There's Chet Lemon and Alan Trammell deeper down the list. Len Matusik, because he's got all that power for Philadelphia. I mean, it's ridiculous. Okay. Danny Goodwin, I don't even think he's in the major leagues anymore. Yeah, he got sent down to AAA this year, recently. He was an MVP, right? He did. Yeah, he won the MVP in our very first year for Minnesota. He also won a World Series MVP with Houston. You cannot deny that this guy has been good in this game, despite some weird, trades, and now he's not even in the majors. Okay, there you go. Extra base hits. We'll do fielding momentarily. Who's played in the most games? It is Mike Gates from Montreal right there. 610 games of potentially how many? 162 times 3 plus 110 in the strike shortened year plus our 50 now, Add that up in your head. Okay, we got Lou Whitaker on the list, George Brett, Alan Trammell, the few guys that stay healthy. Trammell has, I think he's missed at least a month overall. Again, a lot of the oddities like Steve Ontiveros, Steve Macko, who is like dead already, I believe, in real life, Jack Perconte. So, I don't know. Gary Weiss. All right. Hits. Yeah, we want to know this. Johnny Ray by 2 over Wade Boggs, Brett 20 of Johnny Ray, and then the combo of Whitaker and Trammell. Look at how crazy that is, how close they are. In real life, they finished like within 20 hits of each other, I believe, right? Something bizarre like that after 20 years. There's some statistical anomaly where they're very similar in a lot of ways. Okay. Hit by pitch. Who has been hit by pitch the most? Only 18 by Gary Templeton, now on the Royals with Cheese. Just as a note, I have now updated all major league players that have 1984 Topps cards. They all are updated with the actual name of the team that they are on, because I have a lot of time on my hands, Okay, home runs. I'm sure you want to know who's hit the most home runs so far since we've begun the sim, and it is Ricardo Sainz, long-time Mexican League player. He got a call-up at age 18, I guess it's September. He hit 5 home runs. He came back in the strike-shortened year. He had 18 home runs. And then he hit 34 and 30 with 13 this year. He won an MVP in 82. He had the home run title in 1982. And actually, he was a first-round draft pick in 1980, the first year. So great job by Seattle picking somebody I'd never heard of and putting him right into the lineup practically in the year he was drafted. He had 29 games in the minors, batted .307, and they're like, yep, you're going right to the majors. And I can't remember exactly, but I bet you they put him right in the cleanup role. Kevin Mitchell, he's had a couple good home run seasons, but he's got 20 already this year. I believe that leads the American League. Looking at his log, yeah, so the game has already started to compensate for his bizarre home run power. He has only had 1 home run in the last 20 games. So he's going to come back to the pack. I hate the game when it does that, but it's so predictable in that way. Dave Henderson of Seattle. Tony Brewer, that's weird. Steve Kemp, MVP. George Brett. I mean, so you're talking 4 years total, really, right? Because 110 in the strike shortened year, the 50 or so this year. So we're talking about 4 seasons. So George Brett's basically averaging 20 a year, and Ricardo Sainz is averaging 25. Yeah, I mean, what are you going to do? It's a sim game. No one said it's perfect. In fact, it's not even good. Intentional walks. There's 4 with 16, including Chet Lemon. That's just weird. But it's Boggs and Gwynn. That makes sense. I mean, I'm probably accountable for half of these on this list. I intentionally walk a lot of players for matchup purposes, but sometimes it just doesn't work out. On base percentage, Wade Boggs, just a skosh under 400. And a lot of these guys are players who walk a ton. There's Ricky B. Ricky. And yeah, no Tigers. We don't walk enough. The game, we don't even walk against pitchers that walk batters, notoriously. That's frustrating. How about on base percentage plus slugging? George Brett, number 2 on that list, right behind Wade Boggs. And you see the rest of the top 25. All right. Plate appearances. Yeah, it's Carl Pagel because he walks a ton. And what else are the Indians going to do? They hardly have anybody you can count on. Carl Pagel having a career in our sim. Lou Whitaker's right there. Brett, Trammell, all the ones you might expect. Okay, moving on to RBI. Hey, that's good news. George Brett, he's low on our team this year, but he's got 418 total, leading Jim Rice, Pedro Guerrero, Steve Kemp, Robin Yount, Tony Brewer, Kirby Puckett, Carney Lansford, who's not even in the majors, Carl Pagel, and Paul Molitor. So, and Alan Trammell and Lou Whitaker, bringing it up the rear there in the top 25. Again, they play all the time. So, I think just the consistency of being available has led to them being in the top 25. Runs scored. Hey, there we go. Lou Whitaker, 401 runs scored. He's 40 above Willie Randolph. He is a great leadoff hitter. We've got Gibby in that role now because Gibby does have speed. And it's been working out. So we can't really argue to put Lou Whitaker back in the leadoff spot, I don't think. Sacrifice hits. Oh, these are all pitchers. Are there any hitters on this list? I guess is the thing we should ask. No, these are all pitchers. All right. Sac flies. George Brett with 35. Over Wade Boggs. There's Bob Baylor with 27. He's not even on a major league team. Chet Lemon has 23, if you can believe it. Okay, moving on. Well, what about the biggest salaries? There are the biggest salaries. These are all up to date for this year. So there's nobody who has retired that would be on this list. But yeah, John Fulgham and Teddy Higuera both have $2.6 million salaries in 1984. Mostly pitchers. Okay. Slugging percentage is George Brett over Ricardo Sainz. Where's Wade Boggs? He's way down the list. Okay. So even Trammell has a higher slugging percentage than most of the power hitters. Stolen bases. I know you want to see this. It is Kim Allen of the Cincinnati Reds. I think he's on the bench this year. He is. Probably where he deserves to be. He's 31 years old. He's coming off an 85 and a 97 stolen base season back to back. That is pretty amazing. That 97, I really was hoping he would get there. That's pretty cool. It almost happened. But otherwise, yeah, he is. He's on the bench now. And then Ricky B. Ricky, way behind. Probably because he was on our team and we just could not get him to steal. He wouldn't work. Around the floor, there's Bill North, a couple of guys who have already are unavailable as free agents, but a lot of names you would expect. Yeah, okay. Stolen bases. What about stolen base success? Wow, Gary Reedus almost at 90%. That's pretty damn good. They say if you are 75% or above, that is elite level. Is Terry Poole technically elite? I guess he is. Wow, he had 53 stolen bases for Houston in our sim in 1980, and that's coming off of a 30 and a 32 year in real life for Houston. So, wow, 30 for 52. That's not a good year. But he's good now. Okay. Let's see. Strikeout percent. So Johnny Ray strikes out 5% of the time. George Brett and Alan Trammell are just above 10%. Would think we would be better at this because we hit and run a lot. So we have a lot more contact, but I guess maybe that's not true. Total bases. George Brett way at the top. And Trammell and Whitaker right there. I mean, they're right in the mix. Triples. Willie Randolph with 28. Jim Gantner, 25. There's Brett, Trammell, and Gibby with 18 on the list. That's a different Tiger. All right. Walks. Glenn Gulliver of the Cubs with 367. Carl Pagel with 346. Otto Velez is in the minor leagues for Texas. But yeah, Ricky Henderson, I mean, we'll never have anybody on this list. Even when we had Ricky, I think he was disappointing in that way. But yeah, I mean, there's some decent names. Tony Phillips, in real life, used to walk all the time. He batted leadoff for the Tigers for a while because he could always take a walk. Okay, that's it for batting. Let's take a look at fielding real quick. I want to see this. I don't know if you do or not. But we'll take a look at the top catchers in the game. Keith Moreland, who wasn't even really a catcher in real life, he caught in the very early part of his career, was converted to a right fielder, but apparently he qualifies. Well, let's take a look. Oh, yeah, he more than qualifies. In fact, he's never played a game in right field. Anyway. Bad dude, John Stearns, and there's my large adult son, Lance Parrish, in below the middle of the pack defensively. He had that 117 error season. That was just ridiculous. He never did that in real life. Here's a top fielding first baseman, Dave Stapleton. We haven't had enough people to qualify at first. We keep swapping them around. Andre Thornton's retired. That's why the coloration difference there. But there's Dave Stapleton. Was on Boston, now on the Mariners. Keith Hernandez makes good sense. Oh, we had Eddie Murray briefly, didn't we, at first base? Okay, second base. Lou's got to be high. Yeah, he's pretty close. A 985 average is the top with Barrett and Oberkfell. And Whitaker's at 982. So he just made an error today, though, didn't he? Or was it yesterday? Third base. Oh, we suck at this. Okay, well, Steve Ontiveros with a 986 is freaking unbelievable. That is elite level, picking it at the hot corner. He still qualifies somehow. George Brett, although he has done really well lately, where's his... Oops, I clicked on the wrong guy. George Brett's got his fielding percentage up to 912. So he hasn't had an error in quite a while, but I mean, he got started. And I thought, the way the season started, I thought he was going to have to go to DH, or maybe he was going to be unplayable. Shortstop, Alan Trammell. Yep, he's qualified, of course, and he is number 7 overall at short, based on fielding average. The worst is Odie Davis of Texas. 21 different qualifiers. Fran Mullins, just a smidge over Spike Owen, and Ozzie Smith right there. Left field, do we have any qualifiers? Oh yeah, I guess Gibby. Look, I always bag on Gibby. Gibby was not a good defender in real life. I mean, no one's going to argue otherwise. But in our sim, he's not that bad. He is 6th best. And, that's something. We'll take it. Good job by Gibby. Center field, we are looking at Chet Lemon. Yeah, Chet Lemon, in real life, of course, was a great center fielder. And probably deserved to be much higher on the list. Now, I do believe in real life, Chet Lemon had a season where he had he actually had 3 years where he had more errors, more than 10 errors. So maybe he does deserve to be that low on the list. Mike Hart, I know you've never heard of him. Nobody has, but he's the best. Okay, right field. Oh, we don't have anybody that qualifies in right field. We just can't keep a right fielder steady. Now we've got Wilson, so maybe eventually he might qualify. But Dave Winfield, that makes total sense. 992. You got Tony Gwynn out there. Mike Davis. Rusty Kuntz. Lynn Jones. He played right field for us. Just that first year, though, right? Yeah, he was on our team a little bit. He went to Toronto and got to play almost every day. Oops. Okay. All right, so there we go. Those are the fielding positions. What are we missing here defensively? Outfield assists. Let's take a look there. Well, Chet Levin's, what can you do? He's 20. He got 29. Gene Richards had the worst defensive percentage in center field, and yet he's number 1. Tied with Dave Henderson with 39 outfield assists. Bob Baylor was on the Tigers. So was Steve Kemp, technically. But yeah, Chet Lemon on the list. Does he have any for us? He's got 1 this year. He had 1 last year. So, I don't know. His arm is not great either. I don't understand how the game works. What can I say? All right, scooching on through. Runners thrown out. Yeah, I bet we're going to be near the top on this. Okay, Lance Parrish has 140 runners thrown out. He probably would be closer if we played him more, but we can't. He can't hit. Dennis Littlejohn has the most. He's now the everyday Boston receiver. And looking at his fielding, come on. Look at this. 44%. Look at the defensive range and the defensive WAR. That is a guy that can fire it. His arm's rated a 92. Pretty damn good. All right. So there you go, Lance Parrish. What about the percentage-wise? Well, Lance Parrish is number 4 with 30.1%. Rick Sweet is at 22.4%. He's on the Expos with his updated card, looking good. All right, is that it for fielding? I think it is, right? I can't remember anymore. Yeah, okay. All right, let's get to pitching, and then we'll wrap this baby up. Thanks for sticking around, guys. I don't know if you ever find this interesting. I do. I enjoy doing this. I would have done it, if there was no viewers. So, complete games. We have J.R. Richard for the Astros, number 1 on the list with 34. There's Frank Tanana. Then we have Bert Blyleven, who has 24 total, and all of those had to be before he was ever on the Tigers. I clicked on it. Is it not going to pop up? There we go. Yeah, he's had 5 since he joined our team. But he's killing it right now. He's had 5 good starts in a row. He's our best pitcher, and he has the lowest overall rating. There's a complete game for you. Let's take a look at ERA. Why not? J.R. Richard is the lowest. 2.52 ERA. Stephon Weaver right there. Currently Staff ace of the Yankees. Nolan Ryan, I think, is in the minor leagues. Yeah. Nolan Ryan got one start this year, and he's done. That's lame. No Tigers on this list. Not even Bert Blyleven. Okay. Let's move on to games pitched. All right. Well, there's Roger Weaver now on the White Sox with 256. This is our first year without him. Dave Smith, his incumbent, right behind him in games pitched. How many other Tigers are we going to find on this list? Cappy, now on Atlanta. Is he pitching a lot? He's only played in 5 games after we burned out his arm. That's stupid. What else? And Dave Rucker, who is our left-handed setup specialist, too. Surprise, we sent him down to the minors to give him 2 weeks off before we get to the All-Star break. Before we get to the draft break. Okay, what else we got here? Who induced the most grounding into double plays? It is Hector Eduardo, a Mexican League pitcher. Has 128. There's Roger Slagle. We're not going to have anybody on this list. But a lot of the 5-man rotation guys. Names you might expect. What else we got here? Who's hit the most batters? Wow. John DeQuisto has 27 for the Padres, and Jack Morris has hit 24 batters, but never more than 8. That was his first year in the sim, and only 1 this year. What does it all mean? Not a damn thing. And then nothing else. Okay. Home runs allowed. We already know who the leader is in this. It's going to be Larry McCall, right? Larry McCall, 191 home runs given up. Dave Rosema has now given up 100. Oh, man. I think Julio L. suggested Rosie for a closer's role, which is an inspired idea. I think that indicates that he's probably not good in any role, but we have him back in the rotation, and he'll start tomorrow's game versus Boston, his first game back since being relegated to the bullpen to save his arm. And then Jack Morris has given up 98. So, we've got a couple stinkers on our team. And yet, half of what Larry McCall has done. Okay, what else we got here in pitching categories? Innings pitched. Who's thrown the most innings? No Tigers on that list. A lot of these players were in 4-man rotations at one point, so they're going to have a head start over Jack Morris anyway. I think Morris is the one pitcher that we've had. He's never missed a start. We pushed him back 1 start. Innings per game. There's Bert Blyleven with 7.24. Mark Langston, almost 8 innings per game. Come on, game. This was a different era, though. What else we got here? I don't care about any of that stuff. I apologize if you do. Quality starts. Who's had the most quality starts? No Tigers on this list. That is weird, I think. John Montefusco, who just was signed by Toronto. That was a good signing. We probably should have considered signing him. All right, so J.R. Richard with 99. Needs 1 more to hit the century mark. We're almost there, guys. Let's see. Saves. That's the next category. Mark Clear with 108. Dennis Eckersley, 103. There's Roger Weaver sitting at 69 now total. And that's pretty much it. This game doesn't tally saves like we do in real life, where anytime there's an opportunity where a reliever can come in and get a save within the 3-run threshold, then it happens. Here's save success. Gibson Alba, who is the closer of the Cardinals, is number 1, and Roger Weaver is number 2. Maybe we should not have got rid of him, because Dave Smith is just absolutely giving up tons, which is why he's not on the list, I guess. That's not great. Okay. Shutouts. J.R. Richard has 20 shutouts since we've started this sim. Hey, Jack Morris has 9. That's kind of impressive, I think, right? That is definitely impressive. So a lot of the regulars on that list. Okay. And this is fun because, like, as the seasons progress, assuming I keep going with the Tigers season replay, it'll be fun to see when people retire, where they go. It'll pay off in the long run. Who's made the most starts? Let's see. Bruce Berenier, Larry Christensen, and Moose Haas. You stay healthy, you're at the top of the list. Moose Haas on the Rangers now. Yeah, I mean, the guy's literally made every start. He's terrible, but he's making every start. And you have to admire that. Jack Morris has 137 because he's made every start, just not on a 4-man rotation. Okay. Strikeouts pitched. We have J.R. Richard with 902, and it's not even close. Jack Morris, though, 630. He's actually started this year, despite being off to his worst start in his career. He has almost a strikeout per inning this year. So that's good to see him on the list. Bert Blyleven accumulating. You know, I don't think we checked to see who struck out the most as a hitter. It is Carl Pagel, Lance Parrish on that list right at the bottom. But those are the players who have struck out the most this year. I think we skipped that. So we're coming back to it there. All right. Almost wrapped up here. Strikeouts per 9. That is Mark Langston with 8 per 9 innings. Jack Morris, Bert Blyleven right there. Roger Clemens. Still not Roger Clemens yet in this game. He might not ever get there because he's on the Cubbies. Signed as a draft. Oh, he's a draft pick by the Cubs, and has not developed properly because they don't spend the money. Let's see here. Walks per 9 inning. Yeah, Dave Rosemu's still there under 2. The third best. You're going to see Bob Tewksbury on this list eventually for the Yankees. Right now it's Scott Sanderson of the Yankees at 1.67. But Bob Tewksbury, up until the last time we played him, had never walked a player in the major leagues. We got to see. We're going to check that when we're done. We're going to see if Bob Tewksbury has walked a major league batter yet. And I wonder who it is. Bert Blyleven, wow, 2.20. See, I never would have known that. I just feel like Bert Blyleven walks way too many. Maybe he is now that he's 33. And finally, we're going to look at wins. Rick Ownby of the Mets has won 74 games in 4 years. He's been very consistent for the Mets, which is probably why they're always in it despite trading off their best players or trading for mediocre players to move their best players into the minors. Jack Morris has 60 wins. I suppose that's because he doesn't miss any starts. There's some weak names in there, but overall, players that you might expect to find. Denny Martinez, I think he's going to be one of those players that's going to eventually get to the top of the list because he does manage to keep winning. And there's the winning percentage leaders if you're curious. Stephon Weaver's won 71% of the time, almost 72%. Rosie's won 60% of the time. J-Mo's won 58.8. All right. That's all there is, folks. Let's take a look at the Yankees pitchers real quick. I think you're curious. I'm curious. Has Bob Tewksbury walked anyone yet? Oh, he's walked 3. He's walked 3 batters in 12 starts. Last year he didn't walk anyone. So he's walked 3 for his entire career. 3 in 177 and a third innings. His control is 99. Looking at his log. Oh, whoa! He got wild. He gave up a walk in 3 consecutive starts. He's a pitch to contact guy, much like Dave Rozema. So he's going to give up a lot of hits because this game will calculate whatever the whip is and compensate the lack of walks for the multitude of hits. So he's screwed. I mean, he's just never going to be a good pitcher in this game because the game doesn't understand how baseball actually works. But we know that already. Okay, y'all, that's it. We are done. We are moving on to June 1st. We do have the draft coming up on the 9th. I believe it actually takes place after the 8th. After this game is completed, it will go to the draft immediately. So stay tuned for that. I'll make sure to remind everybody. We do have, 5 games versus the first place Red Sox coming up. We're in a battle with the Orioles. We have 6 games versus them. The Blue Jays are surging. We have 7 games versus the Blue Jays. A 3-game series. 6 games versus the Yankees, who are free-falling. And then we have a 3-game series at the end of the month versus the first place Oakland A's. This is going to be a make-or-break month. And I think by the time we get toward the end of this month, maybe toward the middle of the month even, we'll know where we stand and whether or not we need to start making some trades. So things to ponder. I appreciate everyone sticking around watching this video. That's going to do it. Until next time, everyone, have a great day.